So yeah, a disaster. An absolute disaster for the Indiana. But like, Sid Colson's probably not going to play ball again till 2027. And she might be done.
Disaster. There's no other word to describe it, and Indiana Fever fans know it in their bones. Thursday night in Phoenix wasn't just a loss. It was an unraveling of an entire season's blueprint. The team that marched into Arizona with championship ambitions walked out a shell of itself, broken not by a superior opponent, but by the most merciless opponent of all: injuries. 2 point guards gone in one night.
McDonald is hurt as well, folks. You could not have scripted a more worse season than what we have endured so far. Fever lose Sydney Colson and Aari McDonald for the rest.
2 careers altered, 2 dreams derailed, and 1 franchise left staring into the abyss. And before anyone could even process what had just happened, the brutal headlines were flashing across the WNBA world. Sydney Colson, torn ACL, out for the season, likely out for over a year, possibly never to return at all. Aari McDonald, fractured foot, done for the season. Done at the very moment she had carved out a place for herself as Indiana's heartbeat. It was not a loss. It was a decapitation. Think about what that means. The Fever entered 2024 with a stacked guard rotation built around their golden franchise star, Caitlin Clark. When Clark went down earlier with groin injuries, veteran Sydney Colson was supposed to be the stopgap, the wise, steady hand to keep this ship afloat.
Like, it did not look like an ACL tear. It did not look like an ACL tear when it happened. I was convinced. I was like, it's either a meniscus or it's a MCL. I was like, okay, we knew when she went down, she was done for the year. And I was like, okay, if it's something like an MCL, she's back.
And to her credit, the 36-year-old answered the call, steadying the team while offering leadership that can't be captured by box scores. But in Phoenix, on a seemingly routine landing, her left leg betrayed her. Fans prayed it was just a meniscus, maybe an MCL tweak. Instead, her ACL shredded. Season over. Career possibly over. And then, as if scripted by a cruel director, Aari McDonald, the fighter from Arizona who had clawed her way back into the league after being discarded by Los Angeles, broke her foot in the 4th quarter. That was it. That was the backcourt. That was the heartbeat. Gone in the span of 40 minutes. No playbook prepares you for this. No coach, no general manager, no fan base knows how to process losing your entire guard depth chart in one night. Because let's be honest, Indiana's depth at point guard wasn't deep to begin with.
2 very, very competent players, including the starting point guard that was filling in for the other starting point guard. This is a disaster. This is a disaster. And what?
Clark had missed massive stretches, Colson was the insurance policy, and McDonald was the miracle addition who transformed hardship into production. Now, the depth chart looks like a blank page. And what does that mean for the Fever? It means you're staring at Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hull being asked to transform overnight into playmakers, ball handlers, orchestrators, roles they were never built to fill. Mitchell has thrived as an off-ball scorer her whole career, a weapon who punishes defenses without having to manage the offense. Now, she's supposed to run point? Hull, the energy player, the role filler, the defensive pest, is suddenly supposed to be a facilitator. Cunningham, the streaky shooter and competitor, must now become a floor general. It's like asking 3 different musicians to all suddenly play the same instrument they've never practiced. It is chaos. The numbers don't lie either. Colson, while not flashy, gave them 4 points and 2 assists a night. Numbers that mattered because of the steadiness behind them.
What this does for a potential playoff push, I don't know. Because, I've seen people say, well, sign a guard or whatever. Well, there's salary cap implications out there too right now. I even saw somebody say we might have...
Her ACL tear robs Indiana not just of a guard, but of a locker room anchor. And McDonald, she was more than numbers, though her 8 points and nearly 5 assists in 20 appearances were impressive. She was momentum. She was storybook magic. A hardship contract player dropped into the fire, learning plays on the plane, and then dropping 27 points on Phoenix like she'd been there all season. McDonald was the unexpected answer to Indiana's prayers, and now those prayers are unanswered again. But the pain doesn't end there. Remember Caitlin Clark, the generational star, the player meant to drag Indiana into contention, has already missed more than half the season with a groin injury that simply won't heal. 10 straight games she's been sidelined. 18 of the team's 31 games without her. A player who never missed games at Iowa, who was the Iron Woman of college basketball, now reduced to rehabbing soft tissue injuries while her franchise collapses. She's running again, sure, but not yet practicing basketball. She watches from the bench, posts supportive words on Instagram, and smiles through frustration. But fans see the truth. She's not out there.
Tore her ACL. Folks, you saw her land on her left leg. It didn't look pretty. It didn't. Her left leg completely gave out on her. It exploded.
And Indiana, for all its off-season moves and talk of contention, is drowning without her. Stephanie White was brought in to steady the ship. Veterans like Natasha Howard and Sophie Cunningham were added. Coulson was signed for leadership, and the plan was clear. Surround Clark and Boston with enough firepower to chase a title. Clark herself said it, "My expectation is for us to try to win a championship." But now that expectation looks laughable. Because on Saturday, when the Fever face Chicago, they will do so with 9 healthy players and 0 point guards. 9. That's not depth. That's survival mode. And here's the kicker. Under WNBA rules, Indiana can't even sign a hardship contract until after that Chicago. If Part 1 felt like devastation, Part 2 is about reality. The cold, unrelenting truth of what this season has become for the Indiana Fever. Because make no mistake, this isn't just a story about injuries. This is about a franchise staring down the fragility of championship windows, the delicate balance between potential and collapse, and the unforgiving clock that ticks in professional sports. And for Indiana, that clock may have already run out. Let's rewind for perspective. The Fever had been building to this moment for years. They endured losing seasons, draft lottery heartbreak, and endless criticism, all in service of securing Caitlin Clark, the generational prospect who was supposed to change everything.
With a crazy role, right? Learning plays on the airplane, landing and playing her first game without turning the ball over at all.
They paired her with Aaliyah Boston, another #1 pick and Rookie of the Year. They brought back Kelsey Mitchell, the underrated scorer. They added toughness in Natasha Howard, shooting in Sophie Cunningham, and veteran wisdom in Sydney Coulson. The plan wasn't vague, it was calculated. They weren't just hoping for playoffs, they were aiming for banners. And yet, here we are. Clark in street clothes, Coulson on crutches, McDonald in a walking boot. 9 players left to carry the load, many of whom were never meant to be anything more than complementary pieces. This isn't a championship blueprint anymore. This is duct tape on a sinking ship. Look at what Clark herself admitted on Sue Bird's podcast. It's been really hard to be active, play 4 games, and then be out again. I'm not feeling my best, and it's frustrating considering how hard I worked in the off-season, only to spend my time in rehab.
Not turning the ball over at all, y'all. Just came in and was a huge X factor for this Indiana Fever team. Caitlin Clark didn't even get a chance to play like that with Aari McDonald, man.
Those words reveal the reality. This isn't just about the team's health. This is about Clark herself, the face of the franchise, grappling with the mental and emotional weight of being unable to fulfill her destiny. She trained all off-season for a breakout, only to spend her days doing resistance band work in the training room. She doesn't get a training camp to ramp up. She doesn't get a preseason to test her body. When she returns, it'll be straight into Game 30, straight into the fire, and the Fever will demand she carry them immediately, as if the months lost never happened. That's not just pressure, that's cruelty. Meanwhile, the coaching staff is scrambling. Stephanie White doesn't trust her bench. KK hasn't seen meaningful minutes. Chloe Beebe barely cracks the rotation. Turner is treated like an afterthought. With a short-handed roster, White should be forced to dig deeper, but instead, she shortens the rotation further, leaning on the same tired legs night after night. It's a formula for collapse, and collapse might already be happening. The Fever's once promising season is becoming defined by the phrase, "what could have been." They were 17-14, hovering near the top half of the standings.
not sign a hardship contract until after tomorrow's game, which means tomorrow they have to play with 9 players. Now, it helps that the Chicago Sky also have injuries. So this game's going to be a little bit weird. But after tomorrow, they can sign a hardship contract because now that Aari McDonald...
They had beaten Minnesota in the Commissioner's Cup, proving they could hang with the league's elite. For a moment, they were darlings, the team nobody wanted to face in the playoffs. Now, ESPN's models still give them a 98% chance of making the postseason. But anyone who has watched basketball knows numbers don't tell the whole story. Computers don't factor in the human toll of watching 2 teammates collapse in one night. They don't factor in the fear that creeps in when every drive, every landing, every awkward step could mean another injury. They don't factor in the impossibility of asking role players to morph into stars overnight. This is where the psychological damage kicks in. It's not just about who is available, it's about what the survivors believe is possible. Does Kelsey Mitchell, asked to run point, truly believe she can manage an offense for 13 games? Does Lexi Hull, asked to be more than a defender, truly see herself as a facilitator? Can Cunningham embrace a role that has never been hers? Or will doubt corrode them from within?
Look like the Indiana Fever could be signing another player. Basically, another hardship player could be on the way. Sydney Colson hurt. Aari McDonald hurt. Now we got to see who's available again at the point guard position.
That is the danger of moments like these. Teams don't just lose players, they lose belief. And once belief is gone, so is the season. To make matters worse, the broader league isn't waiting. Minnesota is rolling. New York is hitting its stride. Even Phoenix, the very team that broke Indiana's back, is clawing into the playoff race. Every night, Indiana is limping through. Their competition is building confidence, creating separation, and sharpening their weapons. By the time Clark returns, the hill may already be too steep. So what happens now? Well, there are options, but none of them good. Indiana could cut Chloe Beebe or another deep bench player to open a slot for a veteran guard. Maybe Odyssey Sims. Maybe Grace Berger. Maybe someone else floating around free agency. But those are temporary fixes. They don't replace what Colson gave them in leadership or what McDonald gave them in fire. They're band-aids on bullet wounds. The truth is, the Fever will likely limp into the playoffs at best, fielding a roster of 10 and praying Clark can return in time to salvage dignity.
This looked very familiar to the month of June. I believe was it June when Caitlin, Sid, who else was hurt? Sophie was hurt.